Hitmen for me are amongst the most instrumental killers I've ever had to talk to or work with.
At one point, I did get a death threat because of what I was doing. It's not romantic at all. It's absolutely terrifying.
You know, frankly, if a master hitman comes after you, there's very little that you can do.
I had the opportunity in my line of work in research to actually look into the eyes of a lot of hitmen. And one thing that really caught my attention is the coldness that you see in their look. It doesn't matter if they're telling you a story, it doesn't matter if they're laughing. That coldness at the end of their look is always there.
Most of the contract killers I've spoken with have described what they're doing as just a job. They are simply people who are selling their capacity to be violent.
Well, the professional contract killer would definitely be an A type of personality, as we might think of one. They do have a lot of attention to detail, and they're going to make sure that they get to keep doing what they're doing.
What shocked me most was just simply how ordinary these men were. These were men that you would stand next to in a queue for a bus, waiting to get served in the pub. These were just ordinary, everyday Joes.
The most famous or infamous hitman that I've become aware of is a guy in St. Louis who was actually a regular dentist. He hit people on the side, and he was involved in at least 7 murders, doing that while he was actually working as a dentist. You know, why would they do that? How can they go home to a family when they just, murdered someone or continue to do that for a living?
They don't understand themselves really as criminals, but to reframe it in terms of this is a job, which is something that I do, these are my skills, this is how I pay my bills.
And they can compartmentalize it as this is one aspect of my life, and I'm allowed to do this because I can justify it in my own brain why that person needed to die. They go back to their regular job, and it has no effect or bearing on that.
I think in popular culture we are fascinated by this figure of a hitman. On one hand, it's this proximity that they have with life and death, and everything that brings us close to that experience in a safe way, because when we watch a movie, we are close but also removed.
Often the hitmen in the movies will wear suits, and they'll wear trench coats, they'll drive fast cars, they'll wear gloves. It was Agent 47 that first led me to want to do this research. When I was driving to my university in England, I would see a billboard advertising the latest Hitman game, and I started to wonder, is that what a hitman looks like? Agent 47 has a very kind of particular look. It's very fetishized, it's very professionalized. That kind of image, which is actually very aspirational, was nothing at all like the reality of the hitmen I encountered in my research.
Contract killing is really have been around since it began. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, there's references to Macbeth hiring someone to kill others.
And then we know of a guy named Deacon Jim Miller, who was probably the best known contract killer of the Old West. He probably murdered between 20 and 40 people. He was kind of a walking contradiction. He didn't smoke, didn't drink, but he'd shoot you in the back and kill you. By the 1930s and 40s, we have the development of what became known as Murder Incorporated. This was a name given to this group of killers that worked for organized crime in New York City. They're mostly Jewish, although there were a few Italians. But they used Jewish gunmen because there was less links to the mafia, the Americanization of the mafia. These guys had their own insurance, they had retirement plans, they had cars.
This is a picture of George Whitey Rudnick, Brooklyn hoodlum, whose body was found trussed up in the back seat of this automobile after he had been brutally stabbed 47 times. His murder was only one of the many killings attributed to the Brownsville mob, otherwise known as Murder Incorporated.
Murder Incorporated, they had a way of sending a message. So for instance, if they were killing someone that was kind of considered a sexual pervert, they might castrate him and then kill him. If it was an informant or a witness, they might stuff a parakeet or a rat in the mouth.
My research suggested that there were several different types of hitman. We could have someone who had been climbing a gang hierarchy and as part of the initiation would commit a hit. And I described that type of contract killer as the novice. The second type of hitman I encountered was somebody I would describe as a dilettante. This was a man who'd reached some kind of crisis in his life. He would simply go down the pub and say he would do anything for £5,000, and somebody would say, I'll give you £5,000 if you take the life of my partner or my ex-partner or my business partner. The journeyman hitman, somebody who was simply good at his job. And then finally, the master hitman. And the master hitman was not somebody I've ever encountered. He was simply someone whose work I saw the consequences of what he did.
In the many cases of men I interviewed, most of them started very young, and it was more about the possibility of becoming someone, of feeling that you are unique, of feeling that you are important. There are other cases where hitmen are more the product of a war that is now finished.
And these are men who come from military or semi-military backgrounds, and often they are using the skills that they learned legitimately in the army or in paramilitary organizations.
They still need to feel that sense of pride, the sense of usefulness, the sense of that they are unique.
One of the more famous hitmen that most people don't know about is a guy named Charles Harrelson, whose son is Woody Harrelson. Charles Harrelson committed one of the most famous contract killings in the 20th century. He killed the federal judge in San Antonio, John Wood, who was known as Maximum John Wood.
Mr. Charles Harrelson was hired by the drug dealer to put a hit on this judge, and he did. He was eventually captured and he went to prison for that crime. But what's so out of the box about that particular crime is there's kind of a code. You know, if you're going to be a hitman, you're going to kill people, you kill people in the mob, you kill people that are part of the game, you kill your rival drug dealers. Not that that's right, I mean that's a crime too, but you don't kill people in law enforcement. You don't do premeditated murders of FBI agents or federal judges or any judge for that matter. It's just out of the box and it's not within the code that even criminals have.
When it comes to protecting high-value targets from an assassin, especially in a free society, it's almost impossible to completely protect somebody. I mean, consider America. We had 3 presidents assassinated in a 35-year period.
The best tool and best strategy a hitman could use is his adaptability to the actual target. Their ability to be able to work in a wide range of environments is really going to dictate their success.
Tag.